Nick, it has been a while since our first interview together.
We're about to have the biggest speaking year of our lives, like world tours.
If you don't listen to this about 5 times back, whenever
Very clear on who's in it for you and who's in it for the fake you.
it's been beautiful. I'm just so grateful to have you on the show. Thank you so much for coming on. This has been awesome.
Boom.
So Nick, it has been a while since our first interview together. Quite a few years actually have gone by since then. And so I know that your whole business was built around speaking. And so COVID happened. And so naturally there was no events.
Yeah.
So a lot of people have had to change and adapt what they've been doing ever since coronavirus and the way in which the world is now going. So what are some of the things that you've done to literally change your entire business model since all that?
Yeah, we had the brilliant idea. We were about to have the biggest speaking year of our lives, like world tours, like crazy stuff. And we're like, let's move to Vegas so I don't have to travel as much and all the events there, and we'll just be there. And for networking, if people don't live in Vegas, they're going to visit you in Vegas. It's great. Vegas is great. So February 1st, we moved into our house, moved the whole entire company to Vegas, and we had a domination strategy plan. I mean, we have relationships with all the bureaus. Well, I'm not gonna give you all my sauce, but I got a domination plan for Vegas. And I think I did one event. And it was really great because I would like leave my house and it was like 15 minutes. I'd go to my mic check and then I'd go home and like go on with my day and then go back and like speak and then go home. It was really great. Or they would give me a room somewhere and I could stay, and it was kind of like a home vacation. Yeah, exactly. And so coronavirus hit, and the events are just getting canceled and ripped off the calendar, and everything's getting like postponed or just like no more. And as a young entrepreneur, right? Like I'm a baby when it comes to entrepreneurship, and all of us that run the company, a lot of the times we would bank off cash that wasn't in the account yet. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And this is just being transparent. Like, this is business stuff, like learn from our mistakes. And so like I learned from Sean Stevenson, who passed away. I learned from him that never like bank on money until the money's in the account, because a lot of times you go ahead and you spend or you do this and like, you don't know if it's going to get pulled out or coronavirus. No one knows this is going to happen. So yeah, massive shift in the business. And it wasn't looking good. And for the past 4 years, it's almost been 4 years since our first podcast. Since the past like 4 years, I was only sharing stories. And so I didn't have any products on the back end. I didn't have any services. And I was simply just getting paid to share my story really good or really well. See, I can't even still share my story. And so it gave us a great gift because we were able to slow down, not travel as much, and work on the business or work in the business and figure out products, services, email marketing. I mean, like we had nothing. Like I was literally on like the biggest stages of the world and not capturing any data, no emails, no nothing, like literally nothing. And so please don't be me. And basically took this time to build out products, a mastermind, services, like really map out the company because we were on the road 80% of the year. So if you want to tie that long-winded answer into something, it's like always find the gift or the learnings in a situation. And now all of you sitting at home, like you better be looking at your business model and making sure it's pandemic proof, recession proof. And that way, like nothing can take your baby down because our baby almost got taken down. And so it pivoted. It made us pivot, and we have a great business model now.
Isn't that powerful though? Because sometimes it really does take situations like that to make you wake up and think, where am I leaving so much on the table, or where is something totally broken and totally screwed that I'm not even seeing clearly?
Yeah.
Because sometimes we can't see clearly because we're so in the momentum and things feel like they're going so good. And something on a much smaller scale, I see a lot of entrepreneurs, they focus on perhaps like building their website, right? And it feels so good, right? You see the website and it's looking so pretty, it's looking so perfect, and you feel so accomplished. But what really have you actually accomplished? You're not driving any traffic to it. You don't know how to drive traffic.
Yeah.
Right? And so I think that's amazing though, now that you have this back end, because everything that you're doing this year with your domination strategy moving forward is going to be 10, 100 times more powerful now.
So behind the camera is one of the guys who I started like everything with. And we were just talking about this, how like what we did, like the amount of lives and what we did in business, like in 1 year, just like relying on speaking engagements, like it's going to be like 10x. And I think one of the most important things that products and services off the back end do, it allows them to build a deeper relationship with you, like you, me, whoever it is. And we all know the concept of like 1,000 raving fans. Like you only need 1,000 raving fans in your sphere, and they'll take care of you forever. They'll come to all your events. They'll buy all your products and services. And so there's only so much impact that you can make within a 1 hour speech or a motivational speech or even tactical speech. Like there's only so much that you can do for people. But if you offer them a way to further the relationship with you, like that's where the real gold and the real transformation is. And so I think that was our greatest gift, because if you think about it, we're doing these people a disservice. Like if people show up and they hear you speak, or they hear me speak, or they hear you speak, whatever it is, and then you don't give them an opportunity to go deeper into your world, like we're all losing. We're all losing. And so we're building out, raving fans, and that's going to lead to events and masterminds and just more transformations in the people in our inner world. So it's way bigger. It's way bigger. Like you said, it's a way bigger vision and a way bigger mission now that we have the back end and things to do.
Oh man, so true. And so you mentioned that tactical and motivational speeches. Which ones do you prefer doing?
It's a great question. Okay, so I'll let you in on a little sauce that I went through. And so for 4 years, I was simply just a storyteller. And so I was sharing my story, and it was a motivational story, and it was really great, but we didn't have any products and services. And so one of my limiting beliefs, we'll talk about beliefs, one of my limiting beliefs that was I wasn't tactical enough, meaning I always only share my story, and people won't want to book me again because that's all I have to offer. And also having a coach in the speaking world, Sean Stevenson, he said, it was really powerful. He said, my whole entire life, he's been speaking for 25, 30 years. And he's like, my whole entire life, I've been trying to dig myself out of a motivational speaker category. He's like, I even put doctor in front of my name, and they still called me a motivational speaker because I'm like disabled or whatever it may be. And he's like, so the one thing that you can learn from me in my lifetime is don't get pigeonholed into only being called a motivational speaker. Hearing that, when all you do is share motivational stories, you're like, oh shit, like I got to do something. And so even in my incantations or my affirmations, but my incantations, it's I am a tactical speaker. And what COVID also did was I had an inner circle where every Monday I had to come up with new content. And so I would give my best stuff, and it's a good strategy to give your best stuff because it forces you to go be a better student and learn even greater things, right?
Accurate.
Right? And so like give away your greatest stuff because you're like, oh shit, like I need better stuff to teach my people. And so now in the inner circle, there's been people that have been with me for over a year, and that means that's over 50 to 60 trainings that are not my story. And so COVID gave me so many great gifts. I became a master communicator speaking to no one. I mean, we have to speak on Zoom, and sometimes people don't have their damn cameras on, and we have to speak to no one. And so I think it's been a great gift. But yeah, give people a journey to further the relationship with you, because that's where like the real fulfillment and happiness comes from, I think.
Oh, that's amazing. And so let's give the people some context, right? So you have now built this amazing audience, and you're speaking at some of the biggest events. I've seen you speak. I think it was at Cole Hatter's event where I very first ever came across you.
In Vegas?
Which is funny because coming full circle, like that was literally the one that was just on this week.
Yeah.
I don't know if you spoke at. I spoke at this.
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
It's so crazy. But anyway, yeah, in Vegas. And so I remember seeing you speak and just being like, wow. I mean, wow. I had goosebumps over my whole body. It was just wow. That's it. Yeah. And so I reached out to you on Instagram straight away. I was like, I need to somehow get in contact with Nick and just have him share his message with my people, because people need to hear this stuff, right? And so I would love for you to share some context on how you even began with getting your message out there and speaking and having the courage to do that, because a lot of people are afraid to even raise their hand in class.
Yeah.
Right? They're afraid to even make one post on social media. But then you're getting out there in front of hundreds and thousands of people and sharing so vulnerably. How do you feel like you were able to be willing to open up like that?
Yeah, it's a great question. I'll give a long story, short story.
You can go long.
Okay, great. So when I was in high school, I was looking for a way to build more confidence and self-worth. And because like at that point I was a victim and I'm like, well, I'm born with no legs and one arm and I can't change this. So what can I do to fall in love with my body? Because it ain't going anywhere, right? I got to figure out ways. And so my older brother, he was a wrestler and I wanted to be a wrestler. And this is going to be a long story.
I love it.
So
Perfect.
my older brother was a wrestler. I wanted to be a wrestler. And so my friends came into school one day and they're like, Nick, you should be a wrestler. And I was like, I can't, my arm. And I'm giving you a fast story, but my arm was 5 inches longer than it is now. And my bone was growing faster than my skin. So it was super sensitive. And the bottom line is if I would have hit my arm hard enough, my bone would have came through my skin. So I couldn't do physical activities. I was always sheltering this arm anyway. So me being solution-oriented Nick, I'm thinking about all the ways that I could become a wrestler. And so I come home one day and I sit my parents down. I'm like, I'm going to become a wrestler. And like, what about your arm? I'm like, we're going to cut it off. And like, what do you mean cut it off? I'm like, I don't know, find a doctor, like figure it out. But like, it's not serving me. And I know this is going to help me get to the next level. And so my parents, being the great parents they are, they accepted my solution. And in my sophomore year, we amputated 5 inches of my arm off and made it so I can beat things up or like do physical activities with it. And so I became a wrestler. That was my first like taste of confidence. And there was a specific moment where I came off the mat and I had lost, but this lady came up to me crying. And she's like, my daughter's on the sideline. She never wanted to do a sport, but she saw you out there and she wants to try like track and field. I want to thank you. And like a light bulb went off in my head. I was like, first, I wasn't even trying to help people. I'm trying to dig myself out of my own damn hole. I'm not trying to be inspirational. I was helping a little girl. Imagine what it would be like if I focused my energy on helping more people like that. But also, I finally had a fuzzy feeling inside called fulfillment and happiness and what it felt like to serve and make a difference and be out of my world, but serving others, like a higher purpose. And I'm like, oh my God, like I want to do more of this. And so that was like the snowball of momentum for me, because then I was like, okay, what is this thing called Vine? Like people are posting like these Vine videos and they're really funny and I want to do that. And so I created something that has never been done. I dressed myself up as a legless zombie and I scared people in Walmart and I got famous for it. And the videos went like internationally viral. I gained 1 million followers on Vine my senior year, which led me to scaring Norman Reedus, the main actor of The Walking Dead, in Japan for a prank. Like my life blew up because I took a shot at trying to make people laugh and inspire them. Putting like my insecurities or my bullshit aside of like, we all know the internet's a very nasty place. It can be a very nasty place. And so imagine being a senior in high school and like you're super famous, but also the comments that your parents are reading is like, kill it before it respawns, or, like this is disgusting, like just making fun of me. And so I had to put that aside because of the higher purpose, because I knew that it was impacting people and it was making a difference. That led me to bodybuilding. Another thing that everyone said, like, oh, you can't bodybuild, you skip leg day. Everyone skips leg day anyway. And so I became a bodybuilder. And this is where the speaking comes into place. I moved from New Jersey to Tampa to pursue bodybuilding, to get out of the environment, to elevate my environment, and get somewhere where people are more likely to be healthy. It's better. Florida's way better than Jersey. Sorry, Jersey. And there I moved to Florida and I had a mutual friend that said, hey, come to this mastermind. It's going to be like 8 other entrepreneurs. Just meet them. You never know who you meet. I'm 21. I'm like, oh my God, like I don't know anyone here. Might as well take a shot. And so I go to this mastermind and everybody's sharing their story and they finally look at me and they're like, what's your story? I'm like, oh God, have a long story. Do you have a long time? And I started sharing my story. And at the end, there was this Russian guy on the couch and he looked at me. He said, one day you're going to be on stage with Tony Robbins. I'm like, who's Tony Robbins? Like I'm 20, 21. I just got into business. I don't know much about personal development. And I was like, I don't know you. You're crazy. Like, and then so after the mastermind, we stayed after like an hour or 2 hours. And I'm talking to this guy and he's like, I don't know. I feel compelled. Like your story's really amazing. He's like, I do real estate right now, but I want to work for you for free. He's like, 50% of my day will be real estate. 50% of my day will be booking you on stages. If you like the work that I do, maybe one day we'll start a company. Like just joking around. 4 years later, I'm on a world tour with Tony Robbins and he's sitting behind the camera right now. And it was the very person who saw the gift in me that I may not have seen in myself. Now this is a long-winded story and there's so many lessons and little things that you can take away from this. The first one, if I can like back up, the first one is the first thing you must do is get really clear on what you want in life. Like, what is your vision? Where are you? Where do you want to be? And make it extremely compelling. And if your vision for your life and who you want to be is extremely compelling, it'll always outweigh the little voice in your head that says, I don't want to post on social media. I don't want to make that call. I don't want to build that business. But whatever that is, those beliefs that come in, if your compelling vision for your life is so amazing and it pulls you so much, it'll always outweigh the bullshit that comes up of why we don't do what we want to do. And then the next thing I'd say is always find or always find rooms where you're not the smartest and you're not the richest. Find rooms where people are playing at a higher level in life. The reason why you and I coach is because we're able to condense people's process, right? That's why they pay coaches a lot of money, is because coaching is a cheat code to life. Find someone who has the results that you want and the life that you want, and then go learn from them. Because what they're going to do, what you and I do, is we condense knowledge and decades of knowledge into years, months, weeks, and sometimes even small Zoom calls that we can literally take you from A to S, in just a short amount of time, because we've already gone through the journey. And then I'd say a couple more things is, I didn't know anything about speaking, anything about business, and anything about scaling a speaking company. But taking imperfect action is way better than just like, I don't know. Because how many times do we say like, oh, I don't know anything about webinars, or I don't know anything about, DMing and qualifying people through the messages. I don't know anything about that. But the more that you just take action, you'll get more clarity. So if you want to write down, clarity comes from action, not thought, right? A lot of times, how many times have we overthought or overthink? And then we're like, screw it, I'm not going to do it at all. But if you just took action, you would first validate your own ideas with massive action, but you'd actually get more clear every time that you fall on your face, because you're like, oh, I'm not going to do that, and I'm going to do this. And that's my long-winded answer. We can go wherever you want to go with that, but there's so many lessons in the stories. But yeah, I had no idea what I was doing, took imperfect action, and somehow found myself as one of the greatest communicators.
Oh, that's beautiful. And one of the things that I see from people who I interview, or the most successful people, the most inspiring people, the people who really are making that impact, is that they really just are normal people, and it's having the willingness to accept the areas where you don't have all the knowledge, but you're willing to learn and actually implement, right? Because it's easy, as you said, to just sit there in this state of like, oh, but this isn't for me because I don't have that skill set, or I wasn't born with this, or I wasn't born with that. But you're living proof of the fact that you can go against all odds and still make it happen. And so the desire to learn and the willingness, is that something that you've always had, or have you had to kind of teach that to yourself as well? Like, yeah. I want to know what you were like kind of in school and things like that.
Yeah, great. That's a great question. So because of school, I wasn't a great student. And because of that, I had limiting beliefs of like, I'm not a good learner. And so you can see how that could affect like business and entrepreneurship and like learning things. And so like, I'll give you an example of how this happens. So say you and I were in a classroom and we're taking a test, and they come back and they give our test backs, and mine has a bunch of red pen on it. Like, it's like, you suck. No, they don't say you suck, but like everything's crossed off. Like, I failed, and I look over and like, you crushed it. You got 100. The teacher can come up to me and they can handle this one of two ways. One, they go, Nick, you really like tanked your test. Like, you need to work harder. Like, this isn't working out. And then what is the belief I'm going to have around what kind of student I am? Oh man, I'm not very good, blah, 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 blah. Or the teacher can come up and they can pull me to the side and they can say, Nick, the reason why there's so many marks, don't tell the other kids, is because like, you're really smart. And I had to grade you a little bit more strict than the other kids, but don't tell them. What kind of belief is that going to give me about my negative test or my test that I failed? It's gonna be like, well, she went harder on me. Wow, I am smart. Like, I can push myself. Like, I'm really good at this stuff. Right? Do you see how that can go both ways? And so I'm not saying that my teachers did that, but because of my results that I got in school, I thought that I wasn't a good student. Now, the truth was that I just learned differently. We all learn differently, and we can go into a deep, dark rabbit hole about how the education system is outdated and kids learn. Are kids auditory? Do they learn by listening? Do they learn kinesthetics by feeling? Do they learn by analyzing and hearing, or having to see a presentation? Like, they only teach one way. And there's kids and students in there that's not their way of learning. It's outdated. It's been outdated. And so this is probably clicking for people at home. Is like, wow, like, my grades back then didn't define me. Like, this is why I'm successful, because I'm learning something that I'm passionate about. And so when I take that into business, I realized that, well, I'm not a bad student. I just didn't care about math. I can only count on one finger. Why would I want to learn math, right? Or like, why am I memorizing history? Like, what is it going to give me? And by the way, teachers are amazing. Like, there's amazing teachers out there. But just saying, when it comes to business in the entrepreneurship world, like, you want to learn from someone who has the life that you want. If a teacher's making 50, 60, whatever it may be, if that's the life that you want, then model them. But if you're trying to fly on private jets, or you're trying to build a business and not work a 9 to 5 and have freedom, I don't know if that's the right person that should be guiding you. Now, I love teachers. That's no bad mouth to teachers. Like, we need teachers and you're really amazing. But I'm saying, like, when it comes to the real world, who's got the life, who's got the results? Like, oftentimes we're taking relationship advice from people who have shitty relationships. We're taking health and fitness advice from someone who's out of shape. And then you wonder why you don't have great results.
It's all the truth. And something that I do always ask on every episode here, usually at the end, but it's just perfect timing right now. So, I mean, you know this, I dropped out of the UK's #1 business degree, right? Because my professors had never had their own business. And so I was sat there working on my fitness business on my laptop. And exactly as you just said, they hadn't been and done what I wanted to do. And you have just such a powerful message that you share with the world. If you could have one course that had to go into every school, every university, every college, everywhere, with this one course that you're going to have everyone go through so that this is the skill that they have for the rest of their life, what would that one be?
Yeah,
and
easy.
No one can fail it, by the way, because you're so good at teaching, right? Everyone passes.
Yeah, easy. And I'll break it down why it's so important. It's confidence. And you said it's a skill. What you notice, it's a skill. Confidence is something that you acquire. And even at home right now, all of you can be thinking that you would agree that you could be happier, more confident in one area of your life or another. All of us here, like, we could be happier and confident in one area of life or another. There's always room for improvement. Now, the reason why I say confidence is because you will never, we'll take this to all areas of life, but you will never make more than you think you're worth. That's it. You'll never make more than you think you're worth. You'll never have the relationships if you don't think you're worth it. You'll never have the body, whatever that body is. You'll never have it if you don't think you're worth it. And you'll never have the mindset if you don't think you're worth it. And so everything comes down to the foundation of your success is self-integrity, confidence, and the relationship that you have within yourself. And so the analogy is like this. Say you and I said, meet me at 6 p.m. and we're going to have Chipotle. And you're like, great. And you go to Chipotle and I don't show up. How many times of Nick showing up, not showing up, are you going to realize that I'm unreliable? Once, twice, maybe 3 times if you're a pushover. And then you flip the script on yourself. How many times of you saying you're going to start the business? How many times of you saying you're going to work out? How many times you saying you're going to pick up the phone and call those prospects and you don't do it? Are you going to realize that you're unreliable? And so the deeper thing is, every time that we make a promise and we break it within ourselves, unconsciously, we diminish the relationship we have within ourselves. We diminish our self-integrity, our work ethic. And then when you break one promise, it's easier to break 2 and 3 and 4. And people wonder why they tank and they stack. And so if we can teach everyone that confidence is a skill and you acquire it by self-integrity and work ethic, what would that look like? What would that look like for their relationships, their business, their mindset, their body? And what would it look like for all the people that are unconfident? I mean, I've literally vetted my audience. I've literally asked them. I said, what do you need? Like, what do you need help with? How can I best serve you? And they said, I struggle with confidence. Like, we literally pulled the numbers. And by the way, that's a lesson in itself. Most entrepreneurs or people that are getting into entrepreneurship and want to create a product or service, they create a product and service based off what they think people need. And so you take all this time and you create this perfect product and this perfect course or this perfect webinar. It's going to kick ass, and then you release it and it tanks. Why? Because you didn't ask your people what they needed. You assumed what they needed. And so don't be that guy or girl. We did in the beginning. We made these mistakes. Like, I've done this. I've created courses and it tanks, and my whole life is creating things that tank until one thing sticks. But then the moment that you reflect on your audience and ask them, what do you need? You'll notice a pattern. And you create it and you give them what they need and they love it.
And you're willing to get the feedback, right? You're willing to put yourself out there openly and vulnerably and say, hey, look, I don't have all the answers right now, right? I need your help in creating this. And that's what you're willing to do, because you clearly have self-confidence on the inside, that on the outside, if people want to think something about you, then you're like, screw this. I don't need to worry about your thoughts and your perceptions of me, right? And as you said, that does stem from that inner confidence. So you mentioned there, all right, so having the self-confidence and knowing that you have that through following through on commitments that you make to yourself every day. Simple things, right? It doesn't need to be anything crazy. It can be something as saying that you're going to wake up and get out of bed at 6 in the morning,
Yeah.
and actually doing that. Saying that you're going to phone your mom at 10 in the morning and actually doing it, right? Just showing up and doing that stuff. That builds self-confidence. But what else, right? What else can our audience do to build up some self-confidence? Because it's a challenging thing.
Yep.
And as well, I want to emphasize, it doesn't happen overnight.
Yep.
You see me now, you think I'm confident, right? In school, and I would love to hear what you like too. I'd be sat in class, and if the teacher, we used to do this thing, I just remember this thing vividly, right? I'd be sat in English class and we'd be reading a book. And I told myself, I'm bad at reading, I'm bad at reading, I'm bad at reading. So whenever the teacher would pick on me, I would literally go bright red, start dripping with sweat. I never normally sweat, by the way, so this is kind of crazy. I'm like dripping with sweat, and then I just stumble over my words. And even as I'm reading it out loud, I'm saying to myself, Lauren, you just read that wrong. You just said that wrong. And I'm questioning how I'm saying things, just purely because of the fact that I've told myself so deeply that I can't read. So what are some other things that people can do to build that confidence that you've seen with your community as well?
So what Lauren mentioned is over and over in our inner dialogue, she would say, I'm not a good reader, I'm not a good reader. So that belief then reinforces your results that you get. And so we need to evaluate our beliefs. And we all have beliefs of like, I'm not good enough, I don't have the resources, I don't have the limbs, all these different beliefs. And so you really need to evaluate your beliefs and try to chuck the limiting ones or reframe them in something more positive. And so, for example, in my incantations, like I am a student of the game. I'm always reinforcing. By the way, incantations was something that we say over and over again to drill into our unconscious, because then we have rewired different beliefs in ourselves. And so I'm a student of the game. I'm kind. Abundance flows through me. I'm decisive. I'm evolving as a leader. I'm becoming the man I'm meant to be. I'm mastering the skill of influence. That's my role. Every time before I go on stage, a podcast, whatever it may be, I'm going through that. And so you need to evaluate your beliefs so you can get new results. But most people aren't persistent enough to keep trying to get new results. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then also we're talking about confidence. What are other ways how you can build confidence? I'd say the second one is, and I learned this from Tony, is love your family and friends, choose your peer group. And so you can have your family and friends, but choose your peer group as people that are better than you, in a sense of like, you want to be like them, or they have something that you want. They're knowledgeable, but most importantly, that they're bringing you up. One of the biggest patterns that I've seen speaking to thousands of people is that they don't have a great support system. Mm-hmm. And so if you don't have a great support system, the dialogue that you're going to hear all the time is, don't start that business. You're stupid. Like, that's a stupid idea. Yes. And so then your environment is reinforcing your beliefs, and now you're just screwed all over. Now you're beating yourself up. The people that you're surrounding yourself with are beating you up, and there ain't no escaping that. And so I'd say evaluate your friend group. And then also, what will give you more confidence is more preparation.
Right. That's like great. Yeah.
Yeah. And so how many times have we been filled with stress and anxiety about a speech or a course or something? It's probably because of our lack of preparation. Mm-hmm. And that's a good thing to know this, because you want more confidence on speaking, go study speaking, or go study some of the greatest speakers, or how they present, or actually study the topic that you're going to teach, so you have certainty and confidence in what you're talking about. And so I think preparation, environment, and like we said earlier, following through in the very things that you say you're going to do. But most importantly, there's another step. When you follow through in the very things that you say you're going to do, celebrate them. Celebrate them. And the reason why I say celebrate them is because it's easy to feel like a loser when you don't keep score. When you don't look up at the scoreboard and said, oh, I did get up at 6 a.m. Or I did go to the gym, or I did call my mom. Like, what's the point of winning if you don't celebrate and make it feel good? And what celebrating is going to do is actually it's going to rewire your brain to want to win more and feel that emotion more.
That's powerful. How do you normally celebrate? Do you have anything specific that you do?
You can literally celebrate by like jumping up and down and like yelling or feeling the emotion, like just overdriving your whole body and your physiology with great emotions. You can also set out to like go get a massage or go buy that thing that you wanted to because you closed that deal. Like, what is that for you? And so you can set up rewards, and those rewards actually will incentivize, incentives for you to take action more. But I would say you can celebrate all different kinds of ways. What works for you? What makes you feel great? Some of you may want to celebrate by taking a day off and going hiking. Like, I don't know what that is for you, but find out ways that you can celebrate your wins, because you'll win more because you celebrate it.
And exactly as you said, it's what is the underlying emotion that you want to feel, and then for you, what makes you feel that. So for some people, as you said, they love to feel the massage. Other people are like, I can't think of anything worse. That's boring.
Yeah.
I'd rather go do some crazy adrenaline activity. And so that's extremely powerful. And you mentioned a couple of things that I want to pull up on. Okay. Firstly, I was going to ask you, where did you study speaking? Because you are just an unbelievable speaker, and you can tell you put in the reps, right? You come out here so confidently. But even the first time I saw you all those years ago, you were amazing. Have you always been studying that, or is it just something that kind of comes more innately to you?
The reason why, it's funny. The reason why I'm laughing is because, remember, I told you guys that knew nothing. I knew nothing about speaking, and literally Ratmir, who's behind the camera, would throw me out on stage. Like my first paid speech was a car dealership in Tampa, Florida, and it was great. We were so excited, like, oh my God, this is amazing. But like you said, reps. Like Tony always says, repetition is the mother of skill. And so like with repetitions, like you're going to exercise the muscle and you become a monster. But most importantly is when it comes to speaking, I'm like the greatest student. And so, for example, like Tony, I don't care what you say about him. You can hate him. You can love him. He's one of the best speakers in the world. Facts. Like, that's it. And so I would go to Tony events and I would learn from him, but I'm also learning, but I'm also analyzing his movements.
Yeah.
And I'm analyzing the way that he tells stories and his tonality, and what does he do when his hand goes up, and what is he doing left, and what is he doing right. I'm analyzing all the little details to implement that in my stuff. And that paid off, not just financially, but that paid off in the sense of I've studied Tony so much that when I finally got the opportunity to speak on his stage, I spoke on day 4 of UPW where Tony's not there. It was just, it's a health and energy vitality day. Tony has already gone home. And so I knew that if I showed up and I burned the arena down, that Tony would see the footage. And so I showed up and I speak on the day 4, and I know exactly. I go to the left and I hype them up. I go to the front, I hype them up. I go to the right, I hype them up, and then I go 3, 2, 1, shake the building, and I shake the whole entire stadium. Where did I learn that from? I learned it from Tony. And then when I'm speaking, I'm literally reinforcing Tony's teachings and crediting it to Tony. This is the reason. This is how I learned this. This is the reason why. I'm also getting the crowd to do call to actions, like having them answer my sentences and saying yes. And then he sees the footage and goes, oh my God, would you speak on day 1 with me? Because if I have to go get work done on my body or go to the bathroom or take time off the stage, I have certainty and confidence that you can hold the energy just as much as I can. And that was why. But the reason why I share that is because I'm constantly studying. I just went to an event yesterday. We were at the same event, and I'm in the back and I'm on my phone with one finger typing my notes. Like really is no excuse, but I find someone who's the best, and then I learn from them. And then, for example, like even in what Tony does and what some of the greatest communicators, where did they learn from? A lot of it's like NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. How do you talk to the unconscious mind? And so what did I do? I just got out of a 130-hour training, and I graduated as a practitioner of NLP.
Congrats.
Thanks. But like, that's why the results are there, is because I never stopped studying.
Oh, wow. Yeah, isn't that powerful? And as you were saying that, I literally visualized myself in that stadium because of the way in which you explained that. And that just goes to show how good you are at this. Seriously, I mean, it's even since we last spoke, it's just so impressive seeing the growth and your development and how you, oh man, and that comes from confidence. Now, one thing that you mentioned earlier is, about how a few of different ways to increase your confidence. Now, one of the things that I've noticed in particular is that confidence comes with success, And if you haven't already had success, then it's extremely difficult to feel confident in the thing that you're trying to feel more confident in. You know what I mean? It's like if you've never had a romantic relationship that's been successful, then you feel less confident when you're dating because you're like, oh my God, am I going to self-sabotage this again, etc., etc. Now, one of the cool things about what you do, for example, what we do is like clients who join your programs and everything are able to essentially hack that cycle because they can steal the success off of you, right? Because they get to learn from you and feel more confident in knowing, okay, this strategy, this tactic actually works because this has been successful for this person. So it doesn't always have to be the fact that the success has been by you individually. The success can be from someone else, but if you implement their strategy as it is exactly, then they will get the result because we know that it works. And so I think it's really interesting as well. Like you obviously credit a lot of your results in speaking from Tony, but it's not always just from one other person, right? There has to be something going on in your mind that allowed you to realize, okay, I am going to be able to change more people's lives through speaking. When did that come for you? Was there ever a specific moment where it kind of clicks? Like, yes, I can achieve all of this and be like just like all these guys, despite the fact that I haven't been born with this innate desire and love of speaking.
Yeah, that's a great question. I'd say up until a couple years of just storytelling. I think that like I said, I struggled with limiting beliefs that I wasn't tactical enough. That should this be my speaking fee? Am I really delivering the value, right? And then I got more tactical. But I think there was a moment, and it was like later on in my career. I think there was a moment, and that moment was the first time someone said yes to one of my products.
Interesting. Okay, so this is only after you had your back end built out.
Like more certainty, right? Like so, like despite like any person that you see is like Tony Robbins, like the list goes on and on. Like we still struggle. We're human beings, right? And so I think the first taste that I was like, wow, like I can do this on a way bigger level is when someone invested money to spend time with me more. And that kind of like shattered, like, does it make sense? Like kind of like shattered any limiting beliefs that like, who am I? Do I really provide value? Or are they just here because I look like a unicorn? Like these are the stuff that goes through my head. And so when I created my inner circle and I have people that, are with me for a year now, this is like, wow, like how many more of those people are out there that just haven't been in my big hug, my big environment. And so that gave me certainty and confidence in the fact that like I can do events and I can impact people on a deeper level. And I want to create more products because it works and I see people taking them. But going back to what you were saying is when it comes into like a business plan or jumping into a new industry or whatever it may be, like Lauren said, find someone who just has already been there, right? Because that's going to give you certainty and confidence in yourself because like you said, it works. And so I studied Tony's business model. I studied Ed Milet's business model. I studied like who's the best speaker, like make a list and model them. I mean, I didn't get it. Ratmir, how we got one of our biggest speaking engagements like 4 or 5 months into the career, and it was big for us, speaking on the same stage as Gary Vee, is Ratmir went on Gary Vee's website, saw his map of all the events that Gary's speaking at, and made a list of all those event promoters.
Wow. Because
we didn't know where to find events.
Yeah.
Rather than going to look for events, let me go see where one of the top paid guys is speaking. Hey, we'll find the events that way. Success leaves clues. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, we're ingrained and we're taught to just model the best, and it's going to expedite the process. I hope that answered whatever we were asking.
Yeah, we're just chatting, and that's it, isn't it? It's like, guys, seriously, so many people, they stop so short, right? They try one little thing, doesn't work. Oh, I guess this isn't for me. What did you guys do? You got some cool events, but you're like, I can get the best of the best. I'm going to find the best of the best, see what they're doing, and I'm going to figure out how to get in front of those same people that see the greatness in that person.
Yeah.
Because I know that I can be on that level too.
Yeah.
And oh man, that's beautiful. Okay, so how did it feel on that day one with Tony?
So yeah, it's a great question. All your questions are great. So day one is a weird process because I'm in a specific spot where if Tony goes over, then I don't go on. So like and Tony gets carried away, like it's Tony, like it's his show. So like he'll be on stage for 14 hours straight. And so I'm kind of on call. They're like, all right, if Tony wants to take a break or go back, like you're in and you speak about this. I'm like, all right. And so I think the first time, like it didn't happen. Like it was day one, and he went over, or the event had to close down, or whatever. So I didn't go on.
So how did that feel?
It's wild because like there's so much anticipation of like, oh, I'm about to go on in front of 15,000 people, and then no, But it's good because it helped me exercise the muscle of like, at any given moment I can get into state and like be in my speaking zone. So it's a mind screw, but it's great.
And the disappointment, right? Like I was so hyped up for that, but it didn't happen.
Yeah, dealing with that.
How can you keep coming back stronger?
Yeah, dealing with that, I think more of like appreciating just the opportunity rather than expecting to go on stage is key, right? And so then our next tour was in Singapore, and they're like, "You might go on and stay on." I'm like, "Okay," like I might go on, and they're like, "You're going on," and I'm like, "Okay, I'm going on." And so Tony comes off stage, and we don't see each other, and I go on stage and I like do my thing, and what was funny was when I ended my speech, there was going to be a cue of like I was going to call Tony back on the stage. Well, the people in the back had thought I called them out, and I didn't. And so I'm like hyping up the crowd, and I'm like doing like the whoa, and like Tony's behind me and I have no idea, and he's like clapping, and I'm like I have no idea, and I calm the crowd down, and I turn around, and I'm like, oh my God, it's Tony Robbins. And I'm like, and at the same time, I was like, give it up for him. And he was like, give it up for him. We said it at the same time, model Tony. And so I was like, give it up for him. And we like hugged, and like they got a picture of us hugging, and like he's so tall, and I'm like reaching out to him, and he like high fives me. And that was an amazing moment. So, and by the way, you wonder why some of the best coaches in the world with athletes and stuff, they tell their people to visualize the moment before they're in it. I'll give you a few reasons why this is important. When I was going out on Tony's stage in front of 15,000 people, every night or whenever I was in my daydream, I would visualize myself exactly where I'd walk out on stage. I'd go here, I'd go here, I'd go here. The reason I did that, one, is because your brain can't decipher what's visualized and what's real. Your brain literally can't decipher what's visualized and what's real and what's fake. It's called neuron mirroring. And so you can literally visualize the results before you have them and feel the emotion. You can literally go there before it's already been done and fill it with confidence, fill it with certainty that the fact that you can taste it, you can touch it, you can feel it, and that's going to give you more certainty. But also when I went out on Tony's stage in front of 15,000 people, I was like, I've already been here. And so who's more confident? The guy who's been there once or the guy who's been there 30 times in his head already? So visualize your results before you even have them if you need to gain even more certainty and confidence. But most importantly is like exercising the muscle of visualization. Like this is all muscles. Like it's all something that you have to do over and over again. And if you don't use it, you lose it. And so I'm taking advice from myself. Like visualization and meditation is something that I need to do more of. But also don't underplay the power of the unconscious mind.
Because it can go both ways as well. And I think what you said there is key is visualize, but not just visualize, also feel that feeling.
Yeah.
Really feel it. Imagine not just how it looks, but also how it tastes, how it smells, all of your different senses, because then you can fully transmit yourself into that experience. And the other thing is that, I think in the past, this is something that I used to struggle with when I was visualizing, is I would visualize, but then I'd always just visualize something going wrong. It's like this negative loop kept happening in my mind, no matter what I would visualize. Yeah. And so the way that I was able to get out of that was increasing my own self-confidence. Things like journaling. I do hypnosis every day.
Nice.
Right? Every single morning, first thing I do when I wake up, and it's ingrained that into my subconscious mind, that I don't need to doubt myself in these certain areas where, how many years was I doubting myself? Probably I would say solidly 22 years straight. So only in the past couple of years have I really had the self-confidence. But people think, why am I not changing? Why is this not getting better? Why is this not easier? Well, every single year since probably you were born or something happened in your childhood, you have been feeling that lack of confidence. So it's not going to happen overnight. Which is why listen to this podcast back, right? Listen to Nick's work. Go join his inner circle. What's the link to that, by the way?
We could drop it in the show notes.
We'll drop the link.
She threw me for a loop. We'll drop it in the show notes.
Well, if anyone DMs me saying Nick, then I'll make sure that they get it. They'll get it anyway. I'll set up some type of cheeky little automation there. But okay, so next you obviously have your inner circle that you're building out, these back end products. You're going on speaking. You're doing more stuff with Tony. So where do you want to be like in 20 years? I mean, it's a big question, but visualization,
How
we've
old would
spoken
we
about
be?
that. 44.
44.
Same age as me. Well,
Wow.
it will almost be your 45th birthday.
Wow.
So I'm
Okay.
sure some crazy party is going to be
So
in preparation right there.
let's do it. So when I'm 44, I still be speaking. I'll still be speaking because I love it. I was just talking to Ratmir about that. I was like, my inner circle and my inner network of people that are in my ecosystem, I'll serve them till I cannot serve them anymore. That's just the way that I want it to be. But also, by that time, I'll have a massive real estate portfolio that is bringing in thousands of dollars of passive income. So I'm free that way. The company will be systemized. So I'll only show up for specific events, my inner circle, my people. I'll have products and services for anything, low ticket, high ticket, all that great stuff. And probably back into music. By that time, I'll probably in my other lifetime I'll be a famous rapper and singer. It's another goal and ambition of mine. I have a few songs on Spotify, and it was always that like little kid dream that I had in me. Wow. And so I created a few songs and I put them on Spotify, and I didn't market them, and they were like played in like 30 countries. And I was like, wow, that's interesting. Imagine if I like the same thing. Imagine if I focus my energy on it. So once we make this massive speaking brand and it's systemized and everything's clean, that stuff will then get, translated into real estate, passive income that way. And then I have more time to work on like passion projects like music. And everything that I do, I always see how far I can take it. And so my goal would be probably by 44, I'd already done tours of music and I've already went and sold out stadiums for music and that type of stuff. And, but yeah, by 45, I'm chilling. I'm free. I'm free in all ways. I'm doing what I want with the people I want, wherever I want, like total freedom. And I actually have it. I have the age 35 tatted on me. It's a timeline on my chest, and I want to be like fully free by 35.
That's awesome. And let's be real, knowing you, this is all going to happen before the age of 30. Like, let's be real. And I was actually going to ask you about your tattoos. I mean, what does that one say right there, if you don't mind sharing?
This on my bicep?
Yeah.
So this is a Kurt Cobain quote, and it says, "You laugh at me because I'm different. I laugh at you because you're all the same."
That's amazing.
And so I think in our world, like everyone tries to fit in, and we put on fake masks and we try to be in a specific friend group. And what I've realized, especially I was forced to learn this being born like this, was if someone doesn't want to love on me because no legs and one arm, if someone doesn't want to be in a relationship, a business venture, whatever it is, because of my physical body, well, maybe it's actually working for me and it's filtering out the type of women or business partners that I don't want anyway. And so that's for all of us. Like the things that make you continue to be you, because the universe or God, whatever you believe in, will it'll make it very clear on who's in it for you and who's in it for the fake you. If that makes sense.
Oh, that was amazing, Nick. This has been beautiful. I'm just so grateful to have you on the show. Everyone, if you guys aren't taking notes while you're listening to this, if you don't listen to this about 5 times back, whenever you're feeling down, whenever you're feeling low, you have a podcast episode to listen to. I'm going to make sure that if you guys send me a message just saying the word Nick, I'll get you over all the links and everything. It will also be in the show notes, but sometimes people can't find the show notes, right? So I'll make it easy for you. And anyone who shares this on your stories, I will repost that. This word has to get out. So thank you so much for coming on. This has been awesome.
Boom.
Boom.